And we're going to explore this shifting world, the shifting landscape of masculinity, and why so many men seem to be just losing their freaking edge. They've lost their freaking fire. They've lost their will to fight. They've lost their purpose of being a man. And it's crazy. And then we're going to, again, shift into how can we reclaim this sense of manhood, the way that men should be as husbands, fathers, leaders. What's up, freaks? Welcome to another episode of the Steve Eckert Show podcast. And listen, today we're going to dive deep. We're going to start a series of a topic that's just been in my mind for such a long time. And this episode has been a long time coming. It's really a culmination of a lot of previous episodes. Because I get asked this question almost every time I'm a guest on someone's podcast. I ask, where are men going wrong? Like, why have men gone soft? Why have they gotten so weak? Where has happened to masculinity? Like, what is going on with men these days? And that's exactly what this is going to be a multiple. Like, if I just did this as one episode, it'd be probably hours and hours long. There's so much shit to get into. So really, why have men gone soft? And we're going to break this down into several sections and categories, and it's going to flow then into the next step of then reclaiming that masculinity, which is kind of the way of the freak father, how to have fatherhood and manhood and the way a man should lead in the world today. So there's going to be a multiple part series, multiple episodes, because I was going to try and get it into one episode and we'll just be here way too long. I want to make it into bite-sized, digestible chunks. So we're going to break it down into several episodes. And we're going to explore this shifting world, the shifting landscape of masculinity, and why so many men seem to be just losing their freaking edge. They've lost their fucking fire. They've lost their will to fight. They've lost their purpose of being a man. And it's crazy. And then we're going to, again, shift into how can we reclaim this sense of manhood, the way that men should be as husbands, fathers, leaders, and men. So whether you're a man questioning your own path or someone looking to understand these trends or why shit's going the way it is, this series is going to be for you. And it's going to break down. So the first segment is going to be just kind of the nature of modern masculinity. Where are we at? What's going on? Then the crisis part, next segment will be the crisis of that masculinity, which includes what is causing these weak men, and also the impact on the modern culture, like this modern world we live in. What is the impact of this modern culture? And that's going to go into some testosterone discussion about the lowest testosterone levels in men ever. And then the role of technology and social media and the comforts of today's man and how that has played a part into this weak little bitch ass soft men that we have. Next segment will be the importance of brotherhood, having a brotherhood and having role models and having your inner circle and your people, your group, your tribe, your group of other like-minded men. And then that's going to shift into the reclaiming of masculinity, which then goes into the way of the freak father. And that's where it's leading as a man in today's world, as a husband, as a father, as a leader, and as a man. So much to dive into. So just hold on and get ready for a deep, dark discussion on manhood, masculinity. All these are some, to me, the hottest topic that's out there. Yeah, there's all kinds of political things going on and presidential elections and debates and all this other stuff and world news. But when it comes down to it, this stuff is just as, or really more important, because this really is the answer to most issues today. And that's when we go into reclaiming masculine. We're going to dig into, all right, now this is everything that's going on. This is why it happened, how it happened. This is, of course, my freak version of this. But now what the fuck do we do about it? So let's start off. There's just the nature, this first segment, the nature of modern manhood, masculinity, whatever you want. It's almost hard to even use the word masculinity these days. Just want to check some level here. All right, it's hard to use the word masculinity because when you use the word masculinity, it's so bastardized and so people, it's so overused on the fucking internet that it's hard to even use it because all you think of when you hear the word masculinity is toxic masculinity. The second you associate it automatically just because of the weirdos on the internet and the probably the weak, soft, bitch ass men that are out there. So let's start with this kind of fundamental question. Like, what does it mean to be a man in today's world? And I think men have kind of lost their place. They don't even know where they belong in the world these days. And we talk a lot about stoicism on this show. And stoicism teaches about self-control, about courage, about wisdom, about justice. And these are real just virtues that have traditionally defined strong men. So I think there's a correlation between stoicism and masculinity overall. Think about that. Self-control, courage, wisdom, justice. Those are the virtues of man. And what are virtues is just excellence of character. Having excellence of character. Manhood, masculinity is excellence of character. And we're going to break it down. And we always like stoicism and we like to throw in some quotes in here and some statistics. So Jordan Peterson said, if you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. Think about that. If you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. And this quote really just captures what this entire series is all about and the freaking essence of why it's so fucking crucial and critical to understand and cultivate as men true, real masculinity and disassociate the word masculinity with toxic. It doesn't even, those two can't even go together. Toxic should go with weak, soft, bitch ass men, not with masculinity, because it's a oxymoron to say toxic masculinity, because masculinity is self-control, is courage, is wisdom, is justice. So how could it be toxic if it's those things? They can't go together. But even myself, it's crazy. Just using the word masculinity, toxic is automatically thrown in as the little red-headed stepchild word that goes in front of it. And it's time to start shifting that. There's another quote that says, being a male is a matter of birth. Being a man is a matter of choice. And if that ain't the truth, especially nowadays, the choices that we have and the decisions we need to make determine where the hell we're going. And Einstein even said, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. And that goes into the virtue that we're talking about. Like the Stoic quotes are from thousands of years ago from dudes in robes and a freaking sandal telling you how to act as a man, how to have self-control, how to have courage, how to go after self-mastery and wisdom. And here we go with Einstein and these other quotes. So this is a shift from success to value. Become a man of value, not a man of success, a man of value. Success doesn't mean shit. I know many successful men who are fucking little bitches. Many. So it's time to shift from success to value. And that's needed so we can understand where part of this kind of crisis of masculinity. So I think it started with like fatherhood being a problem, right? So fatherless homes, we talk about fatherhood a lot here. And I run the Freak Father Alliance. It's a men's mentorship group coaching program on helping men create a lifestyle they don't need a vacation from and creating a legacy they don't have to wait a lifetime to live. And I think the biggest problem in this country is not toxic masculinity, because that doesn't make sense. It's the lack of masculinity. That's the problem. It's the lack of fathers stepping up in the freaking home. And it used to be the problem was fatherless homes. Then, all right, men were having kids, but a lot of the wrong men were having too many of the kids, and a lot of the right men were not having enough kids. So it became lack of presence of the father in the home. He would just go out and work and do stupid shit and spend time on sports and football games and drinking beer and going to the bar and doing stupid shit. So now the father's just not present in the home. And now it's even shifted to the next stage where men are not even wanting to have kids, or they can't have kids, or they're not interested in having kids, or their testosterone is too low to have kids. Whether they're too afraid to, or don't want to, or scared to, or just have no interest in it, or they're just too selfish. Because part of being a man, part of being a father, and the purpose, when you find your purpose and higher calling, is realizing as a man, as a father, their only way to find your purpose is to go outside of yourself. And the men today have gotten so weak and soft and misguided that they only have interest in themselves. So they don't even give a shit about anything outside of their little bitch ass bubble. And so they no longer even want to have kids. And now it's even going to the fourth fucking dimension where the younger generation don't even know, are confused whether they're a man or a girl or a fucking goat. Like, what the hell is going on where they don't know what they are and they're unsure about what freaking bathrooms to use? And I think it's part of this modern reason for all this, part of this nature of this modern masculinity is a testosterone problem. And that's going to tie a lot of these different segments we have. There's going to be some overlapping fields of fire, some things that are going to make sense in different categories, but testosterone is the one that's going to fall into almost every one of these categories. There's testosterone problems that men testosterone levels, the studies show, are at an all-time freaking low. And it's due to their diet, their lack of self-care. They're just concerned about their own self-interest and their feelings and what they want and what they feel like doing and what they want. They're a bunch of takers. They're just self-seeking, self-indulgent. They're not leading. They're not thinking of anything outside themselves. And they're stressed. They're overwhelmed. They're fucking burned out. They're lacking purpose. They're lacking a higher calling. They're lacking anything outside of themselves. So it's leading to these, of course, if you're burnt out and your sleep is like shit and your health and your fitness and your diet and nutrition are all like shit, of course you're going to have low testosterone. And I guarantee you 99% of the low testosterone in men these days is lifestyle induced. And there's no fucking drug or needle that's going to help that or change that. You might put a little Band-Aid on their little manhood boo-boo, but it's not going to change the fact that their lifestyle is fucked up. You can't cover it up with some other bullshit. You need to address the fucking issue, not just medicate men into oblivion. And even little boys nowadays with the drugs and prescription drugs. Anytime there's some issue going on, it's like, oh, give them some drugs. I went for this bicep surgeon to the bicep, and I couldn't get an MRI in time. And in case it needed surgery, it needed to be done in a quick time. So after about 2 weeks, I finally went to the veterans emergency room, and they were like pushing me and trying to pressure me to get all these prescription drugs to help deal with it, to cope with it, asking me if it's stressing me out and if I needed some medication. It was fucking nuts. And then if I wanted muscle relaxers so I could relax, so I don't have to overwhelm. And I said, no, I don't need muscle relaxers. The last thing I want to do is to let the rest of my body get turned to fucking mush. There's already a water balloon as this bicep. So that is part of the nature of modern masculinity, where it's going. And it does have to do with that testosterone. And also it has to do with the lack of positive male role models through the generations. And like I said, a lot of these categories are going to tie into each other. But listen, I had an example of how not to live and how not to operate as a man from my alcoholic father as a kid. He showed me the blueprint of exactly what not to do as a husband, as a father, as a leader. And men have just gone soft and weak and become overly vulnerable, and they're not leading their wives and their families or their kids the way that they were meant to. They're stuck in a rut. They've lost their focus. They've lost their drive. They've lost that fucking fire, that spark, that edge of man that we should have, that man that's living on the edge in a good way. They've lost that. They're not on the edge. There's nothing pushing and pressuring them. They're struggling with a lack of purpose and presence and awareness and intentionality. Men are more detached and disconnected than ever. There's the lowest levels of discipline and energy and confidence and courage than ever. I told you this is going to be a several part series with all the reasons why men have gone soft, about reclaiming that masculinity, about going into how to lead as a husband, a father, and a man in the modern world as a leader. But then that's going to flow right into imposter syndrome and courage and confidence. These are all the upcoming series. This is going to be a few months long series of episodes that are all interconnected here. That this is like a master course on being a leader, being a husband, being a father, being a man. This shit is invaluable. Soak this shit in. Take this shit fucking serious. Replay this shit if you have to. And because men are just at a point, they're not living life on their own terms. They've become people pleasers. They're settling for average and ordinary and just good enough and mediocrity. It's leading them to extreme lack of fulfillment. There's no fulfillment. There's no sense of purpose. There's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of anything outside of themselves. There's no satisfaction, and there's no fucking happiness, that's for sure. And on the flip side, there's no fun. A couple of episodes back, we did an episode on fun, how men just forgot to have fun. That's leading to lack of happiness, lack of fulfillment. Because listen, being a husband and a father is the greatest career a man can have. Yet men sacrifice and neglect that very fucking thing in order to only provide. They think providing is enough. Providing is not enough, motherfucker. You need all these other things that we're going to be diving deep into in these next few segments, and especially when we get into the long segment on reclaiming the masculinity. Fatherless homes, again, are the first problem. Then the absent fathers are the next problem. Then men not even wanting to have kids is the next stage, or afraid to have kids. And then the young men who are confused about whether they're even fucking men or not, which boggles the mind, but that's what we're talking about, the modern state of masculinity. This is just the nasty, disgusting truth. And the media has, and social media, and we're going to get to the whole section on that, but this is just the overview of the modern state of things. Media's brainwashed a lot of these men with these bullshit liberal agendas, such as I call them the gender benders. Like, they're just forcing you, like trying to bend the reality of genders and exploring it and deciding. You don't get to choose what you are. Your birth just chose what you are. Your chromosomes chose what the hell you are. And today's generation has just taught these men that it's okay not to follow traditional gender roles. And that's where the collapse of the modern family and fatherhood and fathers being in the home, and we'll get into those studies and statistics as we go about that. When there's a lack of a father in a home, or a lack of presence of a father in a home, it's the kind of do whatever you want, regardless if it's right or wrong. That's what how this generation goes. Just do whatever you want. Say whatever you want. Do whatever you want. There's no consequence to it. You're free to do whatever you want. There's a difference between freedom and fucking stupidity. And freedom and delusion. There's a big freaking difference. Like in schools, almost forcing boys to play with girls' toys and wear freaking dresses just to see if they like it. Like, that's not what they were meant to do. They're meant to be rough and rumbling and roughhousing and fighting and doing crazy shit and climbing trees and being active and not sitting in a chair for hours and told to be quiet and stop talking and stop being energetic. Like, they are just pacifying them. You might as well just inject them with a little bitch serum or something when you're trapping them and conditioning them that that's how they should be acting as a man or as a boy, as a young man going into a boy. And then if you don't agree with these agendas, you get called whatever, a phobia and all this other stuff, or you're sexist or you're racist or whatever it is. If you don't agree with any of this bullshit, like, it's time to start swinging back in the other direction. That's the way we need to go in this modern masculinity. And another reason that men are weak these days is because of what we said in the beginning, the fatherless homes. Listen, it's hard. And I know when a woman is a single mother, she's called a strong, independent woman. But when it's a father, half the time they're called a deadbeat dad, a loser, and all this other stuff. And I understand it's hard for a woman to raise a kid on her own, especially a boy, a son. But it's even harder for a woman to teach a boy how to be a man. They need fathers. They need positive male role models. These boys can't learn the male perspective and the male role of things just from a woman, no matter how strong and brave and a good of a leader she is. They need another man. They need to be around men, about positive male role models, purpose-driven men, intentional men who bring order to the chaos. And instead, these days, everything traditionally male is now just considered toxic. Like you can't, like I said in the beginning, you can't use the word masculinity without the word toxic being used with it. And we're in a place where you get shit talked if you don't go along with this stuff. And the modern family is looked down upon. It doesn't barely even exist anymore. Like how many families, that an entire family has dinner together 7 days a week? Tradition, like real traditional families and roles in the home are almost mocked nowadays. Look at the beginning of the Olympics. They're just mocking it with demons and devils and all kinds of unicorns and fucking rainbows and shit. Tradition is mocked. History is ignored. Facts of biology are just denied. It's just about personal satisfaction, about what you want over everything else, including your character, your morals, your values, your family, your community. That's why being this masculine father or leader or man or role model and leading a family is the most important and primary career that any man could have. It's the hardest, the most important, the most impactful, the most rewarding, the most satisfying and gratifying and fulfilling, the most critical job of a man on this planet is being that positive male role model, that purpose-driven male leader, father, leading a family, leading your people. We are, as men, we are dependent on our significance on something outside of ourselves. Think about that. We cannot find any purpose in this world in just ourselves, in just our own selfish being. It's impossible. Man can't have a true purpose within only himself. It's just fucking impossible. We are meant for leading and creating and building other shit with other people, for other people, and creating other people. And that leads to the material comforts that have made men weak. Even patriotism, like it's fucking crazy. Masculinity, even if you're patriotic, it's almost considered like a bad thing nowadays. You should see the hate we get on the internet where patriotic, being patriot or being prepared or being a protector. If you talk about these things, sometimes the internet, the social media will even block it and say it's like hate crime. You talk about being patriotic, or you talk about the American flag, or your pride for your country, or being a protector to your family, or a purpose-driven husband or man, and you get warnings that you're going, it's hate crime, it's hate whatever crime or whatever they say on there, hate message, or I don't even know the stupid terminology they use, but it doesn't fucking make sense. And it's a man's job to endure this hardship, but instead they're not enduring shit. They crumble under the pressure. You offend. You're so easily offended and entitled that you see shit on the internet. You should see the comments of like a 15-second video, and people will tell you all about your whole life because they are coddled and they are resentful and they are passive aggressive and they've been pacified. They've been neutered. You can't hurt their feelings. Afraid to rock the boat and step on toes. You're better off just being quiet, being in the shadows, being the gray man. And then the cycle goes on. These are men who didn't have positive male role models, and now you have all this other outside influence diminishing manhood and diminishing masculinity, and now you have weak men, and a lot of the times the wrong men are having most of the kids, while the right men are having less kids for some reason. We need to shift that shit also. And then they're keeping the cycle going of now creating, instead of leaders creating future leaders and men creating future men, they're little bitch ass humans creating more bitch ass humans. Because men are taught that masculinity is bad, it is toxic, and they should be more like girls. And so that way you can easily manipulate them, easily control them. And most men don't know how to even communicate or operate or deal with any life experience. They've experienced the majority of their lives behind a fucking computer screen and just staring at a phone and scrolling and trolling. And many of them have very little real life experience. Most of their friends, their experiences, and entertainment are all watched on a monitor. Their understanding of any politics or the world or whatever comes from fucking Facebook and TikTok. And most modern men have never read a book on their own in their entire life except the bullshit they were forced to read in junior high school. And it's crazy. We need to start shifting this. They believe biology is fake. It's optional. You could decide biology. You can't. It's facts. It's just the way it is. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that most people don't realize about the modern state of men, and we're going to close up this segment with that, is that they aren't just weak. They aren't just soft. Men are actually getting even more stupid and uneducated because of what they're just, the quick fixes that are out there, the comforts that are out there are actually making them fucking stupider. Men are getting dumber. And it's been shown, think of all the movies, and we'll get into the impact on social media and entertainment in one of the upcoming segments, but men are actually getting stupider, if that's even possible, compared to how men are portrayed in movies and TV and all this other stuff. But men are getting stupider by the minute. And so this is really kind of wrapping up this first little mini segment on really the nature of modern masculinity, the evil masculinity, the toxic masculinity, and all this other stuff. That is the first segment. So this second segment is very closely tied into it. And this segment is now the crisis of masculinity. And then really the state and the nature of modern masculinity. What is this crisis? Let's dive deeper into it.